CityCast listeners dig us because our vibe is more conversation and less interview. We know and love talking about DC to help you get the most out of it. Well, Eagle Bank is no different. Their friendly personnel know all about personal banking and are ready to help you maximize your finances. And business owners enjoy tailored solutions from dedicated bankers who can help navigate complex business challenges, all with the friendly Eagle Bank vibe. Visit them today at eaglebankcorp.com.
It is DC Parks Week, sponsored by Casey Trees. So we have a whole week of coverage celebrating DC's beautiful green spaces. Here's interim producer Ash Durbin with your Casey Trees tip of the day.
DC has a bunch of cool, local plants that help sustain the ecosystem of the city. So why not plant some of them yourself? From plants like coneflowers and violets to trees like the tulip poplar, Casey Trees can help you decide. Head to caseytrees.org to check out their picks.
Thanks, Ash. Today on CityCast DC, DC was actually recently named the country's best big city park system by the Trust for Public Land for the 4th time in a row. We are a park city, and not all of our parks are big. DC's also got some great pocket parks, too. Greater Washington's Dan Reed and Kelly Collins Choi of Casey Trees sound off on what makes DC's pocket parks so special. Oh, and after the interview, Alliance Francaise executive director will be joining us for a brief sponsored conversation. Yep, the Olympics are happening in Paris this summer, but did you know about the Olympics-themed art competition happening right here in DC? Stick around to learn more. Today's Thursday, June 13th. I'm Bridget Todd, and here's what DC is talking about. Dan, Kelly, so when I think about a pocket park, I'm immediately thinking of this one episode of Parks and Recreation where the Parks Department and Leslie Knope are trying to build like a teeny tiny little park. Is that right? Like, what is a pocket park? Is it exactly what it sounds like?
Yeah, so pocket parks are pretty small. They're generally a little less than half an acre in size. They can be found around Washington, D.C. Some are owned by our Department of Parks and Rec, but many are community green spaces that are managed by local neighborhoods.
And what is the point of a pocket park? Like, why not just have a normal sized park? Like, why would you want a park that is so small?
You know, many folks in our city, they don't have lawns, and our larger parks like Anacostia Park or Rock Creek might be not accessible on a daily basis. So pocket parks provide that nearby nature that they can access every day, places where they can gather with neighbors and sit under the cooling shade of a tree, feel the breeze, and listen to wildlife.
Another reason is that pocket parks can sometimes be a requirement for a new development, right? DC can require this sometimes. Montgomery County famously requires pocket parks as part of new development. As a way to ensure that there is open space alongside new housing or shops or offices, and to sort of break up what otherwise would be maybe a more monotonous or like unbroken urban environment.
That makes a lot of sense. And I know when we talk on the show sometimes about like zoning issues or zoning laws, people, their eyes glaze over. They're like, what are you talking about? But it does seem like pocket parks might have some like specific zoning requirements or needs. Are pocket parks zoned differently than normal parks because they're so small?
Parks aren't necessarily like zoned, if that makes sense. I would say that the people who like design and plan parks, like in parks departments or parks agencies, will think about like what are the needs of a given community and how best they might be served. You know, in some cases, it might be a really big park that serves like recreational uses or preserves natural land. In some cases, it could be people need a place to hang out and go for a playground or have their dogs run around. You know, it can be many different needs.
I'm just going to add that some pocket parks are remnants from development as well. They might be owned by the Department of Transportation. They're often little triangles that are just left over from either roadways or subdivisions. And sometimes they're underutilized and communities step in to green them up and make them places that enhance the neighborhood.
Is Casey Trees coordinating with the Department of Parks and Rec to make pocket parks happen, make pocket parks a thing across our city?
We're actually working with a number of community groups that are looking to acquire and manage pocket parks throughout the city. We're working with a group in Edgewood called Edgewood Alley Green. They've been trying to purchase remnant parking spaces behind townhouses to create kind of an alley park and a gathering space for their local neighbors. We're also working with a community in Buena Vista Terrace Southeast on a vacant piece of property along with the Nature Sacred Foundation. We've been doing community workshops and working with a landscape architect to try to design a space that's reflective of the community needs.
There is one of those kind of places right near me in Columbia Heights off of 11th Street where you might not know it's there if you don't venture in, but it is such a pleasant spot for the neighborhood. They've got garden plots and a little fire pit, and you can just see that there is a community that is lovingly keeping this afloat to be a resource for folks to have.
You're not talking about 11th and Bark, are you? The dog park?
No, but that also is near me, and I also really like that spot. And talk about a place where the community has really stepped up to protect it.
Yeah, 11th and Bark, if I understand correctly, Metro owns the land, and that's why they have a big vent for the tunnel underneath it. And so it is, like Kelly said, one of those sort of leftover spaces that neighbors have sort of adopted as their own in a part of the city that doesn't have a lot of open space or green space.
And it goes back to what you were both saying, would you rather that be a vacant lot, or would you rather it be something that people are bringing their dogs and, enjoying community with each other in the neighborhood?
Yeah, I lived in the Parkview neighborhood of DC, and the community came together to build Wangari Gardens, which was a community garden and pocket park space on land owned by Department of Transportation that just had been sitting vacant for many, many years. And it's a wonderful space where neighbors can gather and grow vegetables and picnic together.
Oh, don't even get me started. I know quite a bit about that space. Did you know that there is no running water in that space? And so that the people who have garden plots, in order to get the water needed to water their gardens, they have to do this very involved process that involves running some sort of hose system from the fire hydrant across the street, down the block. Did you know this?
I was one of those people, actually, that was standing in the street not to be run over by a car as we were.
It is my goal in life to see this in action. I have heard it described many times, but it is a goal of mine to see this in action.
Most Sundays in the summer, if you go out, you'll see a large group of folks out there working together.
Hey DC, let's talk trees. We all know planting trees is one of the best ways to take care of our environment, our community, and our health. They combat climate change, cool our city, clean our air and water, improve our physical and mental health, bring our communities together. I mean, the list goes on and on. But what if we don't have any inhabitable space for trees? What if, in order to save our trees, we first need to save the soil in which those trees are planted? KC Trees is a local nonprofit working to conserve DC's green spaces and nearby nature that makes our city so great to live in. Visit kctrees.org to learn more about how to protect our green spaces and natural areas.
Speed into success. Learn French. Much like a high-speed train, Alliance Française's immersive French language classes propel you towards fluency. Unlock a world of personal and professional possibilities when you become a member and learn French at the renowned Alliance Française chapter in DC. Tradition and modernity intertwine, offering you an unparalleled learning experience that includes language classes, cultural events, and the only French loan library in the Mid-Atlantic region. Embrace the language that bridges cultures and enriches your resume. The summer season starts on July 6th, so enroll today. All ages and levels are welcome. If you sign up by June 13th, you get $20 off the tuition fee. Find our French classes and more at www.francedc.org. The summer session starts on July 6th, so enroll today.
How do you make a pocket park happen? Walk us through the process.
I think there are a couple of different ways. If you are just part of a community, again, speaking to the Edgewood Alley Green folks, they came together and pooled resources and actually started trying to purchase some of these vacant lots. And even before that, they reached out to, I believe, the mayor's office because there were a lot of abandoned cars and dumping that was happening on this space. So, first they really just wanted to get it cleaned up. And then they looked at, how do we acquire it and how do we manage it into the future? It takes a lot of community effort, but it's definitely doable.
Yeah. And there are also cases where local governments are seeking land to build a park. Oftentimes that especially in urban areas, may have something else happening there. Right now in downtown Silver Spring, Montgomery Parks, they recently bought a handful of industrial buildings in a neighborhood next to the Red Line and demolished them to build a new park in a neighborhood that doesn't have a lot of parks. It is called the South Silver Spring Urban Park, I think. And so the design is really cool. It'll have performance space, it'll have a dog run, it'll have some green space. But the difference is this is something that the county is pursuing and is inviting feedback from residents on what they would like to see in that space and what are their needs. So another opportunity for people to sort of shape that, but in a slightly more top-down kind of way.
I'm curious from each of you, is there anything that makes pocket parks uniquely DC? I think of DC as this urban environment where there isn't a lot of space and people really have to make use of the green space that is available to them. And so in my mind, that's what makes it kind of uniquely DC, but I'm curious for your thoughts as well.
Lots of cities have pocket parks. I mean, it is definitely an urban experience, right? People trying to make the best use of limited space. So you'll find them in other cities like Philadelphia or New York, or I think any place that has sort of the same challenges we do in common.
I think one thing that's special about our pocket parks in DC are just the prevalence of trees and how much our residents value being able to sit under the shaded canopy, especially as we are experiencing more extreme heat in the summers and storms throughout the year. I think that being able to have those kind of verdant green spaces means a lot to our residents.
Yeah, I'll talk all day about this, but we had a problem right in front of our apartment where we've had this huge, beautiful, leafy, shady tree since I moved in. So it's been here for many, many, many years, right? There was a tree nearby that wasn't looking its best, right? So we're we should call the city, see what they can do about it. And there was some sort of mix-up, and they were like, oh, we'll cut down the tree that is right in front of your building that you've been enjoying since you moved in. And when I tell you that I feel like it has changed the entire vibe of our tiny block, that I don't know, I used to open the window and see people enjoying the shade under that tree. So I do think that it might not be something that people think about, but DC's tree canopy is very important. And I think, when it's super hot and the sun is beating down on you, when you can find shelter under a tree, you really appreciate oh yeah, somebody should be thinking about DC's tree canopy for generations to come. We have talked so much about pocket parks. Is there a favorite in the city that we have not mentioned?
I think one of my favorite parks in DC might be a new-ish park called Alethea Tanner Park in Noma. This is a neighborhood that grew really fast, so fast, in fact, that they had sort of forgotten to include or sort of overlooked opportunities to create public space or open space. And so this is a park that was built on disused industrial land and is now surrounded by thousands of new homes, and is also next to the Metropolitan Branch Trail. So it's just really become, I think, this cool, very diverse, much sought after space for people to just sort of live their lives and gather outside. And because it's on the trail, you get lots of people passing through too. So I'm a big fan.
I'm good. Maybe plug two that we've been involved with. Christus Attucks Park, I think it's pretty well known, but it is kind of the standard for how a community came together and actually was able to create a park and manage it. And they have a lot of events. It's a wonderful place to kind of find behind a number of row houses and just picnic and meet with friends. I also want to plug one that Casey Trees is building up in Allison Street near the Rock Creek Cemetery. It's a little food forest. So if you ever wanted to collect some service berries or cherries, it's a small space, but it's open to the public with a number of fruiting trees, and we'd love everyone to stop by.
That sounds so lovely. I'll definitely be there. Kelly, what are some projects that Casey Trees is excited about?
Department of Parks and Recreation actually has a program currently where they're trying to build and develop resilient small parks. So they are connecting areas along Minnesota Avenue and Bladensburg Road. And they're looking at these small triangle parks, 3 or 4 in a row, and talking to the community to see how they can improve them to provide more climate resilience, more shade, better stormwater retention. I think that's a pretty cool project.
Dan, Kelly, thanks so much for being here. I'll see you at a pocket park.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
And listeners, don't go anywhere. In just a second, we've got a segment sponsored by Alliance Francaise. My colleague Priyanka Tilve is chatting with the organization's executive director about an exciting opportunity for kids to get recognized for their art this summer. So stay tuned.
Hey, I'm Priyanka Tilve here with Sarah Diligenty, the executive director of Alliance Francaise. Sarah, happy Paris Olympics year.
Yes, thank you. It's going to be a busy year for Paris.
Yeah, I'm sure. I hear the games have inspired Alliance Francaise to host an art competition this summer. What's the deal with that?
Yes, well, we decided that because the adults will all be switched on their screens, watching, the different matches and competitions, we needed to do something with the little ones as well. And when by little ones, I'm meaning, like 6-year-old, 7 years old, all the way to 17. And to give them the spirit of competition, we decided to launch a drawing competition or multimedia for the bigger ones, so they could design and conceive and create a poster about the Olympic Games in Paris.
I love that. You're right, because it is summer and kids need to be entertained. This is a really smart way to go about it. What do the winners get?
Well, the winners will get, depending on their age group and, their abilities, anything from a book, because it's all linked with our library as well, maybe a membership if they're not members for themselves and their family. And for the bigger ones, the teenager group, I know they like receiving gift certificates or cash. So we will have a small $50 maximum gift certificate or cash for them to get for them, if they're chosen, of course.
Oh, wow. Those are some compelling gifts. Okay, so you said it's a pretty wide age range. I'm assuming the kids will be broken up for the competition into those different smaller, like you're not going to have a 6-year-old competing against a 17-year-old.
No, not at all. Yeah, we'll have at least three categories. I would say les mômes, which in French means the kids, the smaller kids. Les mômes all the way aged to from 6, to about 10. Then we'll have the pre-teens, 10 to 12, and then the teens, senior teens and junior teens, depending on whether we have enough to make 2 groups of teens or not.
Okay. And they can draw literally anything related to the Paris Olympics, anything about the sports that are going to be there at the competitions?
Yeah, they can do anything that for them would evoke the Paris Olympic. It could be an Eiffel Tower being, climbed upon by a pair of alpinists, as far as I know. It would be anything. I mean, it's best if it is a drawing, hand drawing. But I mean, we understand that teenagers, they do some things, digitally nowadays, but we will want them to let us know if it's artificial intelligence, if it's not their hands, but just their brains.
Absolutely. How is this Olympic-themed art competition part of Alliance Francaise's broader goals in the DC community?
Well, we've had a workshop already in the winter about the Paris Olympic Games and Olympic Games in general, explaining how they started, how they disappeared, how they came back, which was thanks to a French Jesuit, actually, Pierre Teilhard de Chardin. We held a class at 2 different levels, if I remember well, at the intermediate and the advanced level, so we could go deeper with the advanced. So we have a plan of probably holding, and that will depend on if I can find a sponsor, but holding an evening whenever there is the opening of the Olympic Games in Paris, the opening ceremony. We have a big screen at the Alliance Francaise, so we hope to have one event showing the opening with for people to attend at the Alliance Francaise, that on a big screen instead of at home.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. That sounds like a great time. As one of the potential prizes, you also mentioned membership. I don't think we've talked about that before. What exactly do you get if you become a member of Alliance Francaise?
Well, if you become a regular member of Alliance Francaise, there's 2 different regular membership for an individual or for a family. So whenever you become a member of the Alliance Francaise, you have access to the library, whether the physical library in our location, or the cultural one, the digital one, which is called Culturetech, which is accessible via your tablet or computer or phone. And then, of course, if you're a member of Alliance Francaise, you get to be invited to events for free. Or you have, in any case, if it's a paying event, it would be 50% off the price for non-members. And of course, when it comes to the library, if you have a family membership, then you can borrow even more books. It's kind of fun when you see all the parents coming on a Saturday and getting 12 books, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So it sounds like if you're a parent listening, you might want to encourage your child to sign up for this art competition because that membership sounds like a pretty incredible thing to get. So people who do want to sign up for the art competition, how exactly can they do that?
They can email me first because then I can send them the information about that. And then we will add it on the website as well, as which will show on Eventbrite as well.
Amazing. Sarah, what's your email again?
director@francedc.org. It's France for the country, D for district, C for Colombia, all in one word, .org.
Okay, perfect. And then the website for people who want to check out more information there is francedc.org as well. Sarah, thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, of course. And again, that link will be in our show notes, francedc.org. So if you want to learn about the art competition or any of the other cool things that Alliance Francaise does in DC, check that out. And thanks for listening.
That's all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with even more news from around the city. Talk to you then.